Most people have never heard this, but try and follow what I'm going to tell you. There are two kinds of law on the earth. One is called civil law, which is the law of the land, and one is called maritime admiralty, which is called the law of water. The maritime admiralty is banking law, and the law on the maritime admiralty says that you, because you came out of your mother's water, are a maritime admiralty product. This is why the ship is sitting in its berth and is tied to the dock, and the captain has to give a certificate of manifest to the port authority because money is changing hands. This is why when you were born, you have to have a birth certificate. And it's got to be signed by the dock, because that's where the ship is tied to, is the dock. So the dock signs your birth certificate. Why? Because you came down out of your mother's water. You came down her birth canal. You are a maritime admiralty product, and therefore your birth certificate is signed by your mother, and where your mother signed on the birth certificate, get it, you will see it does not say parent or mother, it says informant. Your mother was informing the bank that she has just produced another product to be bought and sold. England, the British Crown, through international banking, owns your physical body, and that's the law. So the bottom line is that you are a maritime admiralty product, and therefore the banks own your body.
You know, I heard once, if you want to hide something, you put it in a book. Man, isn't that malicious? Anyways, I want to talk to you today about law. You see, law is an acronym, and it stands for land, air, and water. See, I always do two things whenever I'm researching something. Number one is, where did it come from? And two, why is it that way? You got to question everything, right? So for this in particular, it goes all the way back to the British, and when the English had the largest navy, or one of the largest navies, and they basically ran the sea, right? So what they did is they took the English language, or the language of the sea, and they brought it back into commerce. And then they manipulated the courts and the banking's language into what we call Admiralty Maritime Law, or the law of the water, okay? So let's talk through some of the etymology and the why things are that way. Alright, so we'll start with the fact that all ships are female. Have you ever wondered why that is? The captain will say, oh, she's a good ship, right? Well, now, stick with me here because this is absolutely freaking wild. Well, it's because a ship is a vessel. A vessel carries product, right? A ship delivers product, right? When a ship parks, it's called a berth. And where does it park? It parks at a dock. Alright, so with me? Okay, this is why you're considered a product when you go to court, right? In the eyes of the court, because your mother was a vessel, aka the ship, that carried you, the product, to term. Then she delivered you at your birth to the dock, or the doctor, right? The dock tender. That's why when her water broke, she delivered you to shore through the birth canal. Whoa, okay. This is why when courts refer to you as a person, okay, this is why they group together person, place, and thing, because person is a noun, all right? But you are not a thing. You are a living, breathing soul. You are a verb. You are always breathing and growing and evolving, right? Notice the ing. You're living. You're a being. Okay, this is why when you are registered at birth, okay, because you're given a birth certificate because a ship has to register its product upon delivery to the dock through a manifest. Okay, so let's look at the money side of things. All right, and why money is water, right? What sits on either side of a river that directs the flow of the water? That's right, a river bank. Well, just like how banks direct the cash flow, right? Or the currency. This is why we talk about having liquidations or liquid assets, right? Money is water. That's why all commerce is handled using maritime admiralty law, the law of the water, okay? But you got to realize that there is a different kind of laws. There's the law of the land and there's the law of the water.
So when you interact with the police or the court system, they will ask you for your name, address, and date of birth. This is done to create joinder between you and your legal fiction, and to trick you into representing it. Once you agree to represent your legal fiction, now they can deal with you.
When a law is passed, for it to be lawful, it has to have the consent of the people. People have to consent to that law and consent to abide by it. But unfortunately, I think we're in a system now where that obviously doesn't happen, but people don't realise that by verbally agreeing with, let's say, a police officer in relating to a parking ticket, that you're entering into a verbal contract, and you're, by agreeing with what the officer is saying, you're consenting to being bound by the law, or whatever the law is. And people, when we say words like "do you understand," when a police officer says to you, reads the caution and says "do you understand," what they're actually saying is, do you stand under our authority? Now again, you know, I didn't know this as a police officer, and even the words that are spoken as a police officer, police don't even necessarily understand themselves. So I believe that people have to consent to a law for it to apply to them in the legal sense, because it's not common law.